Eddie Hearn in Saudi Arabia, for the first time for you as a promoter. How long have you been here and how have you found it so far?
Well, I arrived this morning from Monaco and just incredible. I mean, you've just been part of the media night. We're the stragglers now. We just finished here. Incredible turnout. Massive excitement here in the region for, you have to remember, they don't get major boxing in Saudi Arabia. They've got the biggest fight in world boxing in Saudi Arabia. And it's going to change a lot of things. The landscape of the sport, probably the participation levels of the sport in Saudi. And the plan is beneath this event to also for them to invest in the grassroots of the sport here. So I feel privileged really that they've chosen our sport to invest in, and great opportunity for Anthony Joshua, for Andy Ruiz to start something really big in this region.
Do you think it's the start of something? Because we sort of saw it in like Macau, and obviously we've heard a lot about this area before, this region before, and it hasn't really set alight. Do you think this is it? Because we've had Grove Smith, and then Hearn was here, and now obviously the big one.
Yeah, I think those events came from a different sort of area within the command. This was, we want the biggest fight in boxing. We want Joshua against Ruiz too. And I don't think you're going to see necessarily loads and loads of events, but they do want to make a play for all the major fights in this region. And obviously they've got the ability to do it, but there's always a cost to entry for a country like this or a place like this that doesn't stage fights, because there's going to be a little bit of reluctancy from the fighters and the promoters logistically to look at it and say, oh, blimey, Saudi Arabia. So they have to pay a premium. But over time, once they convince everyone there is a fan base, that the logistics are excellent, as we've found, that cost of entry should come down. It's not as great news for fighters, but at the moment the fighters that are coming to fight here are obviously getting handsomely rewarded. But we can see coming here that this is a proper place for boxing. It's not like just a country that doesn't stage sporting events. I mean, they're doing one virtually every week here, mega events. So it's been fantastic to deal with them, and I'm really excited. And I think Saturday's going to be madness. I think it's going to be off the chain, and I think everybody in the world will be watching.
We know that ticket sales really don't run the market as they used to do. They're maybe not as important as they once were, but is there a little bit, if there's a disconnect with ticket sales, and what I mean by that is American fans, UK fans, really not, it's not that they can't come, but there are a lot of barriers to coming out here. Do you think that live attendance might suffer back home if we're bringing the real big stuff over here?
No, because I think every event's on its merit. We don't want to start taking mega events out of the UK, but we also have to understand that if there's 3, 4, 5 times as much money to be made in other countries, the talent, the fighters are going to be accepting it. We can't be idiots about it. But at the same time, in terms of the numbers for here, when you're talking about, we'll have 15,000 in there on Saturday, there'll be 4,000 Brits, and there'll be a couple of thousand other nationalities, and the rest will be locals.
So how many do you reckon will?
1,000. Oh, it'd be completely full up. Yeah. I mean, they control the gate. They bought the gate, so we're not even involved with the tickets. We know the sales, and we know there's 4,000 Brits coming, not just from the UK, but from Abu Dhabi and Dubai, for the expat community. So, it's going to be. I mean, even when I went to Froch Groves, Grove Smith, it was full up in there. I think you were there as well. It was a good crowd. So they're not. You've seen from tonight from the media. I think the impression is, what do they know about boxing? Like, they do have TVs, they do have the internet, they do follow sport. They all know who Anthony Joshua is. They all watched the first fight, and they're lucky enough to get the rematch.
Just on that, we'll speak later in the week, but I just want to ask about Joshua, and obviously you know him better than anyone in boxing, really. How have you found him this week, or certainly in the last couple of months, since the dust really settled on New York, and since he decided to come back straight into this rematch? How have you found him?
Well, I think he took a little bit of time to reflect, and I think one of the journos asked earlier, you were sitting on the meeting, if he moped around. And I probably saw him at times where he was definitely, he's always that guy, he lights up a room, right? He's got an infectious smile, he's got such positive energy, but you could tell that weren't quite there because he was gutted. He's a competitor, and don't be fooled by the arm around the shoulder and respect to Andy Ruiz. Just because he didn't sulk and run out the ring, it doesn't mean he weren't hurting inside. He was gutted that he lost. But he's used that as an inspiration to become a 2-time heavyweight world champion and to try and improve. And once he got that in his mind, he's been extremely focused. And I think the difference now between the Anthony Joshua who rocked up in New York you know, almost like the Monday night event, the red carpet and American debut, blah, 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 to the guy who turns up tonight with probably a little bit of a chip on his shoulder when he starts talking about wanting to punish Andy Ruiz. That's the AJ that I like, and that's the one that I remember when we first signed him. But it's very difficult to sometimes lose that kind of edge when you've just got people patting you on the shoulder, telling you're the greatest. Now you've got people doubting him. Now you've got people criticising him. So now you've got that element where the back's against the wall. And when he's like that, he's dangerous. And preparation couldn't have gone better. He's in great shape. He's in a great frame of mind. But it's a very, very tough fight, and it's going to be a thriller.
Some people have suggested that his career's on the line, that if he loses, it's over.
I don't mind the pressure of that, because I quite like him under pressure, because I think he performs. But when you're talking about a 30-year-old man who would have had 24 fights, lost to one man, and unified the World Heavyweight Championship twice, he's got a lot of improvements to make. He's getting better and better. So don't write him off yet, but we don't even think about losing. For me, he has a future win, lose or draw. But the only thing that matters is the win. And that's the only thing he's focused on.
Just one last one. Dillian Whyte, a late addition to the card. Obviously, all sorts. We don't really know the situation with Dillian Whyte, only that he's allowed to box and he's been cleared and whatnot. But what's the latest with him? Is this a fight that could have taken place in England? Is it?
Sure. He has to be cleared by the British Boxing Board of Control to take this fight, and he has been, because he's not suspended. He's free to box. The frustrating thing is waiting for UKAD to issue a public statement on what happened and the findings or whatever that may be. He's had his hearing. He was cleared to fight. That fight was 5 months ago. He's got to fight. You know, he can't just sit around waiting for UKAD. They need to speed up their process. So right now,
does that process involve determining whether the adverse finding was correct or upheld?
I mean, they've already done that in the respect of having their hearing and clearing him to box. If they think that's the case, they wouldn't and shouldn't have cleared him to box. So they've got their reasons for that. We know those reasons. We want them to let it be public, because it will give the public a lot of information that they need. But in the meantime, you can't expect Dillian just to sit on his backside waiting for someone to issue a statement about why he was cleared. He's been cleared, he's free to box, get on with your career, and he needs to look good on Saturday against Marius Weck.
How damaging do you think this episode could be for his reputation and career really going forward?
Very damaging, but you know, he's not a golden boy. You know, he's a rough, ready geezer from Brixton who can really have a tear up. And he's been through a process that's affected him personally and mentally, but he's a very strong individual. He's come through that. He's gone through all the channels he was asked to go through, to attend a hearing, to provide all the information, all the VADA tests. He provided that information and he was cleared to box. You don't clear a man to box if there is doubt or suspicion, in my opinion, of him cheating. So let's get that out there, let's get that UKAD to make that statement, and then people can get off his back. But right now, you've got no choice but to let him fight, because he's not suspended, he was cleared. So, but it's frustrating to continuously have this conversation, you know, and hopefully, soon as they can put that to bed. I'm hoping that this fight will kind of spur him into action to deal with the matter quicker. But you just saw with Ryan Martin, you know, he boxed a year ago and failed a drugs test, and they've just announced their decision a year later. For me, it seems ludicrous that it should take so long.